Okay, so once again, officially welcome to day 2 of the 7th edition Cyber Defense Summit. For the benefit of those of you who were not here yesterday, you have a brochure that has been given to you upon registration. The brochure has the profiles of all the speakers, the sponsors, and additional information of the summit, as well as our upcoming initiatives. You have your personal badge. Some of you might have pre-scheduled one-to-one meetings. As you can see, this is your badge. If you do have any meetings, the table numbers are listed right here, 1, 6, 9, 11, and the details of the meetings are given here, including the time slot, the table, the company that you would be meeting with. If there are no meetings, please feel free to approach us or the sponsors directly, and they'd be happy to assist you. Some of you have already given your feedback for day 1, yesterday. And for the rest of you, kindly validate the feedback form. You will see that the feedback form has been placed right in front of you on your tables. As and when a session is over, I'd appreciate if you can validate and rate the speakers as well as provide your feedback. We take your feedback very seriously. When you participate at our next edition, you will see that we've made changes, we've considered your feedback, and the platform is a lot more beneficial to you. This is the floor plan. You must be familiar with it as of now. This is the conference room. This is where we are sitting as of now. That's the networking area. Lunch will be served at level 3, that's Crossroads Restaurant, at 1:45 p.m. Before I introduce you to the first panel discussion, the panel moderator and the members, I'd like to let you all know that after this 60 minutes panel discussion, we have a break for 60 minutes. We come back again for another 60 minutes panel discussion, followed by an interesting networking activity. This morning, we all introduced ourselves to the audience, but at 1 p.m., there is going to be what we call as a NACEBA networking hub, where you meet with your peers one-on-one for 2 minutes each. So keep your business cards ready, get your pitch ready. 2 minutes of 20 rounds, so you have the chance of meeting with 20 people and getting to know which companies they work for, what are their roles. As NACEBA's Managing Director Nick Watson mentioned yesterday during his opening remarks, you never know when one of these contact details or one of the contacts that you meet at during this summit will come in handy. The first panel discussion is securing the third platform technologies, social media, mobility, enterprise mobility, BOID, cloud security, and making use of big data analytics. For this, I'd like to welcome the moderator of the session, Mr. Sami Al-Shamari. He's the IT and Telecom Manager from Oryx GTL. He's also the IT Director of Supreme Committee for Legacy and Delivery. Maybe you all please continue giving a round of applause. Thank you.
Morning all. It's another day of information security, which is bringing a lot of questions and discussion to the ground. And as Naveen mentioned, there is this session will be talking about the bring your own device and talking about cloud security, talking about internet and business intelligence security as well, which is, I think, with low oil prices, people are trying to go for more cost-effective solutions, and people also asking about these questions. So to do this, we have panel speakers that they are covering different areas in the information security in their fields, from financial, from service providers, and from manufacturing sector. So I'll call Mr. Mohammed Ballan. He is the head of information security in Doha Bank. He is also the Platinum ISAC member. He's been in the industry for the 20 years. And also General Secretary for the Information Security Committee in Qatar Central Bank, and worked in various countries, including Qatar, USA, Canada, and United Arab Emirates. Welcome, Mohammed.
What is this?
And Mr. Akhtar, with 15 years of experience in IT security field for international vendors in Europe, Middle East, Africa, as a provider as well. Please, Akhtar. And Satya, head of SAP and IT in Qatar National Cement Company. He brings 30 years of experience in the manufacturing and enterprise companies as well. And he been running, being CIO for the group, big group in India in 6 countries. And welcome to the discussion here. of all, thank you for making it and for coming. And it's a really rich subject that I think it's the interest of a lot of people. And it's not only covering enterprises and companies, it's also interest of people, normal users as well, because most of their information, most of their utilization of their emails, their apps, there is a lot of things that it's not in their hands, but it's not in the country. It's not something that they can see. It's around the globe. So we'll start with having a high point of view from each one of you about this subject and what you think about it from each one perspective. We'll talk about financial, talking about cloud service providers, and talking about industrial and enterprise areas. So we'll start with you, Mohammed.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My understanding is the subject of today is focused on cloud security, BYOD, and big data. Being in the financial sector, this area is not something easy to talk about. It's actually our nightmare. Probably yesterday, many of the discussions were talking about oil and gas sector, energy, telecommunication. But with financial sector, it's not something, I will classify it as more sensitive, more classified information that requires beyond just security. I mean, nobody will care how much gas you fill up your car, but people will care how much money in your balance, okay, and in your bank account, in some areas. So, speaking about overall financial sector and the challenges that we are facing every day when it comes to BYOD, cloud security, and big data, along with social media as well, social media security. My experience so far, during the past, if you all recall, during the past 4 years, a lot of significant changes have happened to social media, to online banking, to digital banking as well, or what we call it iBanking, that really changed the way of how financial institutions are doing business to their customers. In today's environment, many of the customers actually are expecting their bank to interact with them using social media. And if the banks are not using social media to them, that's not a good bank. Many of the customers as well expecting the bank to use 1 or 2 mobile banking applications, along with very sophisticated ways of doing payments, deposit checks, pay bills or pay by credit card. That really made everything more complicated than what we as information security professionals expect or expected. So speaking about BYOD, it's newly discussed subject during the past 5 years that your employee can bring his own device. This vice president wants to use his iPad. This AGM wants to use his phone. Another VIP person in the bank wants to use his own mobile because he doesn't know how to use the other technology or the other type of mobiles. So you have to accommodate that. If you don't, then basically you're not doing your job. This is what really created challenges on us, on how overall we can enable business, we can enable everybody to do what they want to do using technology, whether online banking, whether mobile banking, whether bill payment, whatever you want to call it, but in a secure way. So it keeps us really busy. Knowing the classified or the type of information and data that we are basically handling or obligated to secure, with a lot of expectations from regulator, customers, and management as well, made everything beyond than just easy. It's really very complicated and difficult. So overall, we will share later on with you, overall my experience with the financial sector. I'm not going to talk specifically about where I work or the bank that I work with now, but overall about the financial sector. From my experience in the Middle East and in North America as well. Again, we will cover, I guess, social media and cloud computing and BYOD.
After, also maybe you have different point of view since you are on the
Okay.
other side.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, hello and Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor to be here today with the panel and with all the people in the audience. Okay, so my name is Aftab. I work for a company called Akamai that some of you may or may not have heard of, but we specialize in cloud and security. Now, I'm not going to give you a sales pitch, but I will say, when we look at cloud, we've been doing this for a very long time. When we look at the subjects you mentioned, I always go back to the conversations I had with friends of mine many years ago and said, at some point, this is all going to be about storage and bandwidth. It's all going to be about bits and bytes. And ironically, in our world at Akamai, we used to look at the cloud as bits and bytes and what we delivered. And it didn't matter. And then on top of the bits and bytes, you have the software that actually goes ahead and enables you to have the controls and the functionality for your users. Now, if we push that paradigm back, I always look at things going on around the world. I also look at the future generation. You know, I'm a proud parent and I have children. I look at my children and how they use technology. They push the button and they want it now. You know, when I first got into computers as a young lad, you know, I was waiting 8 minutes for the worst game to load, and I was happy to wait 8 minutes. Now everybody wants it in seconds. You know, we have tons and tons of analysis on how long people should wait for services and how those services should deliver and how they should extend. And to go to your point about bringing your own device, when you're at home and you have an iPhone, everything's so consumerized and people have these functions and this functionality, and it's great. You go into an enterprise, you know, we have actually 5,000 employees across the world, and we have thousands of customers, etc., which I'll tell you about later. But as 5,000 employees, when an employee comes to the IT, they expect everything to work like their iPhone. They don't understand the complexities that are involved in managing that and the information security that goes on top of that and how you're going to conform with this, but they want everything like it works at home. Well, if I can get this from my local provider, why can't I get it from you, Mr. Company, especially when you claim to run the cloud? So it is an ongoing battle for everybody in this room in terms of bring your own device. How do we talk about cloud? And again, there's some interesting topics. I hope we can talk about the cloud and security. What I've seen over the last few days, people talking about, yes, it's getting really challenging and security is really great. It is, but as I said before, I look at bits and bytes and I look at people wanting these bits and bytes very, very quickly, and how do we continue to deliver that securely, because software will continue to evolve. So that's my point.
Thanks, Aftab. And Satya, from your experience in manufacturing organizations and where big data is a must and it's important to take a critical decision for production, and your experience with international companies that has operation in 6 countries and now working in Qatar's National Cement Company, which also has manufacturing requirements and multiple factories. So also from point of view as a manufacturing organization with special needs, how you see the subject that we are talking about today?
I'll take it. Thanks, Samir. Assalamu alaikum and good morning to everybody. I have been working with the manufacturing companies, okay, for the past almost 30 years, and that is my expertise. And then before coming here, I was in Mumbai, taking care of India, Hong Kong, Dubai, China, and Belgium. Okay, and then I had an opportunity to work with some of the large enterprises dealing with manufacturing and sales. Now, having said that, okay, when you talk about the large enterprise, okay, these large enterprise, especially the manufacturing organizations, okay, they are quite different from the banking and then financial sectors. That is where I put it as a difference. Now, having said that, these manufacturing or the organizations, okay, I think I got one slide. Naveen, can you just play that slide for 2 minutes? Okay, I mean, these are very complex because the manufacturing segments are spread across different countries. The sales is happening from different countries. Okay, the postings and transactions happening from different countries. Whereas this has to be managed, it has to be supported, it has to be secured, okay, by the IT department. So it's the responsibility of the IT head to ensure that the systems are available 24/7 accessible across the countries. Now, having said this, now you see that, okay, today in the competitive world, okay, things are becoming more and more complex. So how do you secure this data? How do you ensure that, okay, things are in the right direction? And the other one is that by chance, okay, if some things are not working properly, okay, there could be some disaster, okay, and then what are our plans to bring back the systems online? The moment the systems are down, okay, it is of millions of dollars where the loss is happening. The production people cannot post the productions, the stocks are not available, the sale cannot happen. Okay, I mean, it's a huge chaos happens. Then what is our standby or what is an alternative, okay, by which we can see that we can bring back the system? Now this slide, I mean, this is something which, it's close to my heart. Okay, I take it forward in many of the forums and all. Okay, you have a data center, and then just to bring it that, you have a data center, then you have got the different countries, okay, manufacturing places, the sales organizations, okay, all these things are doing the transactions. Okay, then what type of securities that you put on the top of it? Yes, most of us has got, okay, normal securities, like you got the firewalls, you got the antivirus, okay, there is a base level securities. When you're doing a global business, okay, and these securities are not just sufficient. You need to have something on the top of it, okay. Then you go for the intrusion prevention systems, the intrusion detection systems. Okay, there should be a close watch on these things. Okay, who are the people who are coming onto our network? Who are the people who are trying to come onto our enterprise? Then shall we allow all these people? Okay, shall we follow the traffic? Okay, you need to monitor the traffic. You need to drop the bad people. You need to allow the friend people to come. So what I'm trying to say is that this is becoming more and more complex, okay, in a manufacturing environment. That is one. The other thing is, as Mr. Samiz rightly said, okay, we use this data, a lot of data is getting generated. Okay, most of these places we use ERP systems, okay, sales data, the financial data, okay, I mean the manufacturing data, a lot of data is getting generated. Now this data is becoming large and large day by day. Okay, then we are reaching a stage where we are talking about the big data. Okay, in a layman's language, the big data is nothing but, okay, large data, large types, large volumes, okay, and then large frequencies. When I talk about large data, the database running onto some few terabytes. Okay, when I'm talking about the large types, okay, the types is what the data is coming from different sources. Data is coming from ERP systems, data is coming from Excel spreadsheets, okay, data is coming from CCTVs, okay, different varieties of data is coming. Now the large job and the resilience in the sense, the current systems, okay, cannot handle this type of data. So we look something, okay, which are specific for analysis of this data, okay, which can process this data and we can generate the reports. That is where we talk about the large data. Now coming to the BYOD, I just share some of my experience, okay. Now this is something which, yes, shall we give these devices to the people? Shall we allow the people to bring whatever they want it? Okay, there are yes and there are no. I'll just share my experience. I mean, when I was handling China, okay, yes, as a good policy, we said that please bring your own device. Okay, we'll take it onto our network and we'll ensure that you will become a part of our corporate network. Okay, it's a concept is good, so that yes, all the information can go to them. But in the process, what has happened was that the amount of load, the amount of the responsibility coming on IT was tremendous. In the sense, in a place like, I just trying to differentiate two different countries, let me not take the names and all. A country where the people change their devices, okay, day in and day out. In the sense, okay, every 3 months, every 4 months, every 6 months, they keep changing the devices. The moment you change a device, okay, it's a job of an IT person, okay, to reconfigure that. So does this IT person has got their skills? When they change the device, it is not only the model, they change the operating system, okay, and then change their own languages. It's becoming very difficult. Then we need to come out with our own policies, okay, either to allow or not to allow. Now, having said this, recently we implemented in the Qatar National Cement Company, we came out with a policy very clear. Yes, we allow you people to bring your own device, but yes, this device is provided by the company. It is your device, that's fine, you use this device, okay, and we put our own policies onto that. Now, some of the policies that, okay, it is required by the company. Say, for example, if somebody is coming late in the morning, okay, the information has to go to his boss. Because the reason is that, so the boss is prepared, okay, if the guy is not coming, what is an alternative? Now, this information has to go through their mobiles. So what it does is that, okay, when the person punches his, the attendance in the morning, it captures, and it knows whether he is on time or not on time. The moment he is not on time, okay, it captures that, and the system knows, okay, who is his boss, the message has to go to him, with a message to him also saying that you are late today, okay, or you are not come today. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, there are some lot of workflows are there. These workflows are going through the mobile devices. Okay, then what we said is that, yes, these devices, okay, on which the workflows can go on devices where it cannot go. Now coming to the big data, yes, I mean, this is something which is, the existing systems are not able to manage. Okay, the data is becoming, we have got about 10 years data is there, another 3 years data has been recently added. So what we do is that we run some different applications where it can take this data, process it and give it to the people. Very business critical data, which is very useful to the people, especially, okay, when they are doing your year-ending activities, planning for the future, the planning, budgeting, and then controls. When they plan for these things and all, this data generates a lot of information can be taken for it.
Thank you, Satya. And I think we saw how diverse is the subject, and from different perspective and point of views for each one of you, and different users and needs for this sector. And it's really critical from each one as a perspective. But I will ask you, Mr. Mohammed, about the financial sector's readiness from cyber security side, and with the growing threats and risks, and that we see it every day. There is different types of risk that attack different levels, whether it's users or end users that use your services, or attacking the enterprise itself. So how you see the readiness of the financial sector?
Okay, well, from my point of view, when we talk about readiness, to me, I think it covers or it addresses two layers here. The service provider, the gateway where your services are connected or available to the customers, which is mostly the ISP provider or the telecommunication companies, and the internal readiness when it comes to security of your applications and the interface applications, web interface applications. Now, I'll be honest with you, overall, I see a number of challenges that are increasing day after day. I'm not saying that in terms of readiness, the financial sector here in the area don't have effective security readiness for their web-based applications or mobile applications and internet services. But all I'll say is they are increasing day after day for many reasons. The part that I really want to address here also is, do we have control over everything that is really in the cloud, whether it's from BYOD or from social media or from big data? I will say no. Remember also there are a lot of regulatory pressure as well to the financial sector that regulates how much or to which extent, to which level financial institutions can use BYOD services, cloud services, social media as well. I'll tell you an example. In my previous organization, one of the points that were very, I would say, we were under pressure to enable BYOD for the customers, for the employees, I'm sorry. And there was a huge discussion, or I would say, a challenging discussion between information security and IT to enable such services for the customers and employees as well. And we wanted to come to a conclusion where that could be enabled, but in a secure way. So at that time, MDM and separating corporate data from personal data was not available at that time. I'm talking about like 4 or 5 years ago. So the discussion is, what do we enable in the devices for the employees? Do we enable certain information, certain services, certain applications? Definitely yes. You cannot enable everything. If for any reason that mobile was lost, can I have the access as a corporate or corporation to delete or wipe that device? Well, the answer should be yes, but do you legally have the right to do that? It was a big challenge overall. In today's environment, I think technology have really, or security tools and security techniques and controls have enabled or made it easy for many of the corporations to, in a better way, enable BYOD for their employees and customers. By enforcing some of the security controls and separating corporate data from personal data. Yes, you can use your own mobile, no problem, but remember something very important. Whether you're an employee or customer or vendor as well, this part in your mobile, I'm securing it. I'm responsible to secure it. If something happened to it, it's my responsibility. You handle your area or your part in your mobile, that is your personal area. We don't have control over it, it's your area. But when it comes to our corporate data and information, that is managed and secured by us. Something really very important I want to stress on is we usually, as information security professionals, people have the impression that we block or we lock business from doing what they want to do, from being innovative or from opening innovative ways to do business. And to me, the success for any information security function is really to actually to allow business to enable technology and business gateways, but in a secure way. And that when it comes to even cloud services and cloud computing. I'm supportive to it, but again, the question will be, in order for me to use it, I have to give away some of the controls, security controls that I cannot control it they are not in my custody, basically. Along with respecting regulatory requirements and customer expectations as well. Talking about social media security as well. Our employees and customers, they use now social media using even their mobiles as well. And I'm talking here about their personal accounts. But what's the liability if one of the bank's employees accidentally pictured one of the customers' accounts and posted in his social media account? So what do you do with that? Do you think I have control over it? Absolutely no. The only one control I have is really to make those people aware that what you are doing is not something that you should do. So it goes back to the point is people is really the weakest point to any information security function. The more you invest in people awareness, the more your job and responsibilities and controls will be even more effective. That's really from my experience and perspective. So talking about readiness, I think we are getting there. It's way better than other parts of the world, I guess. But it requires a little bit more attention, more awareness. And thank you to this kind of seminar here, because it gives more discussion about those challenges and the areas what we believe it requires to be available in each organization, such as social media security policy. Have you thought of having one in your environment, in your corporation, to ensure that your staff, when they even use their Facebook and their mobile, that they should not talk about their colleagues or their customers or make comments about because that information, they don't own it. So they are not even supposed to disclose it without authorization. So these kind of things, it really is something that you should consider as part of your security controls that you need to implement in your organization to bring it from this maturity level to a higher level.
Thank you, Mohammed. And I think, again, the point is there is a lot of awareness that need to go for different level, whether internal or to end users as well. So I think this is, everybody shares this need that for more awareness sessions. Mr. Satya, you've been implementing ERP enterprise solutions for major organizations that generates really huge amount of information that's critical for the business. And later on, based on that, you're going to generate business intelligence reports, dashboards for the management, which this information sometimes is under the radar of competitors, that because it will give them insight information that will give them better position in the market to compete. So how you secure such information inside your organization, make sure that it's managed in a good way that will not be gone to the wrong hands?
Yeah, Samir, I think let me share this experience also. Naveen, can you just play that slide? See, when we come to these manufacturing organizations, I think as Samir rightly pointed out, okay, we need to secure the data. Now, if you see this slide, okay, you'll find at the bottom, okay, a transactional data is coming from the systems. The transactional data coming from the finance, so coming from the manufacturing, coming from purchasing, sales, and then things like that. And this data, okay, has to be fully secured because we do not want this data to go into the hands of anybody else. Okay, it's a very, very critical data, okay, especially the sales data, the production data, okay, the sales data, the sales customers data, the pricing data, the sales patterns, okay, the volumes, who is picking up, at what rate, at what discounts. It's very critical to the organization. Now, it is our responsibility to ensure that whatever the systems that we put, okay, we need to secure this. That is one. And then Mr. Samir has rightly asked, okay, once this data is available, from this data, okay, we can generate a lot of business intelligence coming out of it. So when I talk about the business intelligence, okay, these are the tools should be available to the business people, okay, so that they can take the right decisions. The sales people should have the information saying that, yes, who are the people who are picking up maximum sales? Who are the customers who are giving maximum revenues? Okay, that data should go to them. Then on the top of it, okay, they have to build up the relationship with the different vendors. Okay, then we have got the intranet. So what I'm trying to say is that, okay, I mean, as a IT head, okay, as an architect of the infrastructure for the manufacturing organizations, okay, the vertical one is one thing. On the two sides, okay, you have got two different pillars are coming. Okay, one of the pillar, okay, you might have seen that there is a security pillar is there. So what I'm trying to say is that when you put any system, sales or purchase or the finance, okay, each one has to pass through their security. When I talk about the security, yes, the transactional data has to go to the right people, not to anybody else and all. Now that is one part of it. The second thing is that where is this data is residing? This data is residing in a server. And where are the servers are located? The servers are located at the data centers. Now who owns this data center? Okay, then you've got two things. Some data center I own it, some data center I put it in other places and all. Like say for example, for Qatar National Cement Company, okay, the main data center we have put it in Miza. Okay, that is a Qatar Foundation. The disaster center is at some other place. Now, it is our responsibility to ensure that data on these two servers are protected very well. Okay, there we have got the authorizations, we have got the security rights and all. Okay, when you develop a systems, we ensure that the right people will get the right information. Even within the organization, people cannot jump into other things. Now, one of our experience is that, okay, the loss of data, the data going out, data leakage, okay, is coming more from the internal people rather than the outside people. So we need to protect our internal people. We need to ensure that, okay, they did not take the data. Now, from where these people are taking the data? Okay, it is from the systems. What system they are using it? They are using the computers, they are using the laptops, they are using the mobile devices. Now we need to ensure that, okay, this data is, when it is transferred to the devices, they should not be able to copy it. Okay, as a policy, okay, we need to plug all those things. The USB ports, okay, yes, they cannot copy it, they cannot copy onto pen drives and all, that type of data. The other thing is that, I think Samir also has pointed out, okay, coming on to the big data. Yes, this is something which I addressed in the beginning also. Now, there are three things we carry on the big data, okay, that is the large volumes, okay, and the large varieties, okay, and the large frequencies. When I talk about the large volumes, okay, the data, okay, huge data getting generated, okay, coming from different sources. It is not only from the ERP systems. We have got Excel spreadsheets, okay, we get data from the banks, okay, some people are working on the legacy systems. Now, all this data has to be pooled together. Okay, when I talk about the frequencies, now this needs to be processed and given to the business people, okay, in a fly, in the sense they ask for some queries, system should generate and give it to them. That is where we use the different type of systems. I think Samir, did I address that or anything I missed on this?
No, thank you very much. It's covering all the areas that we think is maybe also going to open the door for the more questions. Right. But Mr. Aftab, as we have seen the last 2 days, that our information technology infrastructure is getting more complex and getting more services now. And at the same time, we're getting bombarded with sales people that they are trying to sell and using buzzwords and you know how critical these systems that you need to buy. But from your experience, and since you've been in this field for a long time and like so different sides of the information security, what are advices you would give to your clients to best take the best decision and select the best solutions for their needs and without being misled by salespeople?
Okay. Thank you, Samir. I think that's a good question. I think first of all, it is very confusing when you have so many salespeople in nice suits and fancy watches coming along telling you need a product. And it's the marketing buzzword, it may be big data or cloud or whatever else. I think you need to step back and work really what's best for your organization and take a holistic approach and really pull back and say, what is my organization trying to achieve? Not what your department is trying to achieve, but what is your organization's goals? Where do you want to get to? How are you going to get that competitive advantage? How are you going to enable your users and the people within the company to get that competitive advantage in whatever they do? So how are you going to do that? You're going to have to go and sit with all the different department heads. So security shouldn't be sat in a silo. I mean, Satish, you brought up a nice set of silos of different business units or drivers, and you should be sitting with those people and interviewing them and finding out what they want to achieve and why, rather than being restrictive and saying, no, we need to do security in this way, or vendor A said we should do it this way. Once you've built out a map of what your organization wants today and where it's trying to get to tomorrow, you can then start to work with subject matter experts and trusted advisors. Now, this is where it becomes, I think, even more challenging. There's a lot of people that want to do everything for everybody. And we all know the guy that actually does the plumbing in their house isn't the same guy that should do the electrics. Well, hopefully not in this region either. So you need to go and find best of breed specialists in those places. So you work with your trusted advisors and question. Don't work backwards from what they can do. You should work forwards from what you want to achieve. Also, don't just look regionally. We have a tendency to do what we've done before and do what our neighbors are doing. But why not look further afield? Why not look across what the leaders of the internet are doing or the leaders of your organization are doing? So if you're a bank, for instance, why not look at the biggest bank in the world and find out why they're the biggest bank in the world, what type of systems they have, how their users work, how they're enabled, and how they get that competitive advantage, and what it would take for you to do that. Of course, you've got regulations and all those guys, but you can work with the regulators and find out and say, look, as a nation that's coming up, and as an entity that we want to be the best in the world, we need to be more like them. So you can influence the regulators. I would say the regulators even should be preaching best practice from global best practices and putting in compliance to help people reach those standards. So coming back, give your vendors a hard time, ask what they've done, ask for their experiences also. Don't say, why is your box good? Why is your service good? Ask them, how have you helped other people in my industry achieve greatness? What have you done? What steps have they taken? And I get this very often. In fact, Robert, who's over there, who's the sales manager for the region, and I were in a very large bank yesterday in the region, and that was the first question they said. They said, what are you doing for your other big banks in the world? Forget around here, what are they doing? What steps are they taking to secure their perimeter and their data centers, et cetera, and what other things are they doing? We couldn't give any names, but we had a very long conversation, and it wasn't about what we were selling today. It was about what steps they took, what processes they'd taken, and what other things they were trying to do. So this is a great time to come to places like this and speak to your peers, but I'd urge you to look outside of the region as well. And look at what other people are doing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mohammed, from your point of view, what are the major information security and cloud cyber security challenges in today's environment? Since we have covered that, I think this is also in your radar as
well. I will say one of them is to do a self-denial of service. That's one of the risks and threats that I believe that could happen. As my colleagues here mentioned, sometimes changes to your systems and platforms could cause self-denial of service. So we have to avoid that by implementing a number of security and technology controls into our environment. Now, speaking about the other part, which is something that is away or not controlled by us. It's basically from malicious activities or from outsiders. I will really think that overall, we have not experienced, alhamdulillah, in Qatar, as extensive cybersecurity threats comparing to other areas in the region or in the world. And I guess,
Yet.
what maybe, well, let's, okay, debatable. Yeah, this is what I believe. And I think one of the reasons is because of the maturity level that we have in our gateways and the infrastructure security that is really operated, what I believe it's in a unique way. Like the QCert and ICT Qatar. What I have seen with the QCert and ICT Qatar, I don't work for them, but I'm just very complimentary to them. I haven't seen it in even the US or Canada. They have done not only probably in Qatar, maybe in UAE as well or in Saudi Arabia, but I'm just sharing what I have seen in other countries. I mean, the level of maturity that I have seen from those critical infrastructure protection organizations, such as ICT Qatar and Ooredoo and Vodafone, I guess, is really mature comparing to what I have seen in others. So to me, it's a good enough. Again, I'm not that expert to assess them or to know what exactly they do, but I'm just comparing what I have seen from other areas to what I've seen here, and I see it really effective enough to provide the sufficient level of protection and security to our environment here, or to the critical infrastructure here in Qatar. The other reason is our organizations are very popular, such as other organizations in some of the largest banks in the world, or I'm talking here about the financial sector. I mean, the banks that I worked in here in the Middle East are smaller than the banks that I worked with in North America. And over there, you see a bank that has 75,000 employees, thousands of branches, distributed globally with operations across everywhere. Unlike smaller banks here in the region that is really, smaller in nature, maybe they are not known as those banks. So those attackers, they will not really go to target those small banks because one of their objectives is really to make a noise. And to make a noise, you don't go for the small guys. You go for the large international banks, and that will maybe cause an impact. I mean, that could satisfy their objectives anyway. So that's another lucky reason why, it could be. It could be. So I'll be honest with you. Overall, it requires a lot of internal and external involvement, along with support from regulators, from the gateways, from the ISPs, and from the internal security experts and technology control experts within the organization to bring it to a better mature level. As of now, I think we are in a good shape.
Just can I add one question?
Absolutely.
I would always argue hackers really do not discriminate. They don't. They don't care how big you are, what color you are, what currency you have, what country you're in. You're on the internet, you have ports that are available, you can have a breach and you can have an attack. I mean, what would you say?
I agree. But at the same time, I'm just talking about
if you're talking about targeted attacks,
yeah,
I understand you've been fortunate so far,
yeah.
but
thanks God.
The world is changing.
Definitely, the world is changing. Definitely.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. And I have, since I mentioned the question for Mr. Mohammed about the challenges, I will ask Sati about how you mitigate the cybersecurity risk and once it comes to cloud computing.
Understand. See, this is something when you talk about the cyber security. Now, where are these people are sitting who are trying to hack the things, who are trying to get into our network, who is trying to get into our infrastructure, or who is trying to do the damage to our systems? Now, these guys, they don't come to our organization and do it. They are sitting across somewhere, and they are trying to come to our systems, okay, through the internet. So when you design the internet architecture, the enterprise architecture, so we need to take care to ensure that what is that we need to expose and what is that we need not expose. So generally what we do is that all the business critical things, okay, we don't expose to the internet. In case if we expose, okay, we need to have a very tight policies, tight securities on the top of it. The other thing is that, okay, this is something which is picking up now. Generally the competitors, okay, if they want to kill us, if they want to see that our business comes down, okay, they try to attack on our production systems. Now, most of the companies today, most of the manufacturing organizations, okay, we use SCADA and we use a lot of the production monitoring systems. So generally what we do is that we don't expose these, okay, to the outside world. So my cyber security is protected for these critical equipments, critical machines. Because these machines are very critical to us. If they are down, okay, it's going to have a huge damage. The other thing is that, yes, we don't expose that. What is that we need to expose then? There are certain systems, okay, there are certain applications. I still take it onto the cloud. Okay, when you talk about the cloud, again, you have the different types of cloud that you are all aware of it. Okay, you got a public cloud, you got a private cloud. Okay, then we bring another concept on the top of it. Okay, then the hybrid cloud. Now, this is something which I have shown one of the enterprise architecture. That is a combination of private cloud, the public cloud, okay, and then the hybrid cloud. When I talk on hybrid cloud, yes, we use both the things because each one has got its own advantages, okay, some disadvantages. Now, one of the key points is that which I want to share it with you is that, okay, when you go on to the public cloud, okay, yes, the cost is cheap, it is readily available, immediately you can implement it. But security comes as a concern. Then what you will do is that certain applications, okay, especially for the people who are in heading the IT, okay, you've got development activities, you've got testing activities, you've got some training activities. So generally what we do is that these are not business critical. Okay, this we move to the cloud. We tie up with somebody, we'll take this infrastructure, we'll hire their servers, we'll hire their storage, we'll put the things on that. Now, once the testing development is completed, then we move to the production where the real data is getting generated, that we keep it out of cloud. Now, the other one which I has mentioned was that, yes, there are cyber attack people, they try to attack your production systems. Now, suppose if I don't bring the production systems network into our corporate network, then I lose certain privileges, certain advantages. What is that? The production system has to transfer the data on real-time basis, okay, to the corporate systems also. Say, for example, the production head, he needs to monitor, okay, which equipments are down, which systems are down, okay, whether the machines are working properly or not. Now, if I keep that out of the enterprise, this thing, then the people doesn't get that information. So what we do in that case is that, okay, things from SCADA, things from the manufacturing systems, we dump, okay, certain critical data onto separate area in a computer. And from there, we pick it up into the corporate network. So what I'm trying to say is that, okay, when these people try to attack, okay, it is they come through the network, okay, the network has to be protected, and network need not be exposed. Business critical network, okay, should not be exposed onto the internet. Samir, I think this is my...
Thank you for your both of you. It's really informative. And after you've been providing cloud for security for cloud for a number of years and for major or the largest organizations in the region, how was this challenging to start up with, and how you compare this with today's security for cloud adaptation and programs? And if you can share with us advices and guidance for the audience here from your experience.
Okay. I mean, it was very interesting in the beginning when we first started coming to this region. People would come to us, and I'd say in the beginning, it's still in pockets today. We'd come to us and they go, "We don't want cloud." And we'd say, "Okay, what is cloud?" So it was really challenging, and some people would say, "Look, we want..." I even had it last week with a particular smart government, not here, and they said, we want to do our website, but we don't want to do it in the cloud. I said, okay, really? Let me know how you're going to achieve your website not being in the cloud. And they went, no, we don't want to do the security in the cloud. But so it was a real funny concept in this region. It was about control, loss of control. And I think people still feel that today, that they feel if I go in the cloud, I lose the control because I can't see it or touch it. I would argue, well, when was the last time you plugged into one of your devices in your data center? You actually sat in another room, often in another building, and you accessed it via a web browser. It just happened to be on your private network rather than on a public network. But it was still on the cloud anyway, of sorts. So there was a big period of education. And there was education, knowledge transfer that we went through, and really shifting people's mindsets to understand the advantages of that. And again, as I said earlier, how do you build out your policies to get that competitive advantage when you look around the world, what people are doing? People are getting really, really scientific about their processes, and they're looking at things like Six Sigma and how do you get that competitive advantage. And it can be down to actually cutting processes down by a minute on each process. And the things like technology is enabling these. So if we look at the technology enablers that exist today, it's very, very difficult to do this internally. If everybody's probably heard of the Internet of Things. It's not the Internet of internal things, it's the Internet of Things. So cloud is inevitable and it's coming to everybody. And as we get to more and more big data that we need to come in, again, from the Internet of Things, from different sensors, from different intelligence, it's all coming from the cloud. So again, coming back to the education we found, and it was also confusing in terms of there's lots and lots of stories out there, and some people don't actually have a tangible cloud, and some people do. So again, coming back to your questioning, make sure you question everybody else. So I found it really interesting over the last, say, 7 years, where we saw people saying no cloud, to people not actually mentioning cloud anymore when we was talking about certain security solutions, and people realizing actually cloud delivery is the only way for certain types of services, such as, for instance, DDoS services. To give you an example, I came from a company called Prolexic that was purchased by Akamai. They were the world's first ever DDoS mitigation as a service provider, and we delivered this in the cloud as a service provider. And everybody said, no, I want an appliance, I want an appliance, I want an appliance. And when we explained that the attacks were too big to handle locally, even on your local network, sometimes in your local country, they all went, okay, maybe that makes a point. So we started working with all the banks, etc. And now today, everybody's talking about a hybrid approach to DDoS, and that seems okay. So you have some on-premise, so you have this illusion of control, but actually the real attacks are fought in the cloud. So with education, it's been really good. The adaptation I see now is very encouraging. For what I've seen in the last, few weeks and few months, has led me to think, well, actually, we're turning a corner regionally, and people are starting not to look at the marketing words and the concepts and actually look at the drivers. So I'm very encouraged.
If I may,
please.
If I may comment on this. Actually, I really appreciate Aftab's points about how regulators needs to be aware of those kind of security enhancements to the cloud computing. To me, a cloud, if it used correctly and if it is enabled correctly in a secure way, it could enable a lot of, it will bring a lot of good advantages to the businesses, whether they are financial institutions or even government sector. Now, for many reasons, whether it's for availability of services, for BCP, for disaster recovery, for many reasons, even from a cost perspective as well. Now, the point that I want to try to make here is the vendors and the security professionals for cloud service providers or service providers to cloud services, they actually have the responsibility to make regulators and decision makers for each country aware of those kind of security controls and enhancements. One of the discussion points that I'm not sure if you all are aware that any financial institution here in the region, if they want to enable services to their customers using cloud computing, they have to get a permission and approval from the central bank of each country of those that they're regulated from. So let's say for us as a financial institution here in Qatar, in order for us to use a cloud computing or cloud services, we have to go to central bank and obtain approval. And one of the basically requirements for us to obtain that approval is to highlight what are the security controls and how things will be secure and safe in order to get that approval. Now, but the point that I'm trying to make, that after I guess clarify it now in a minute, is you guys have the responsibility and the obligation to go and help us.
I agree fully.
Okay,
I agree fully.
to really make those regulators aware, because they are not cloud providers, they are regulators. They need to know what do you have in your premises and in your services that you provide to the financial institutions and other than financial institutions that will make them comfortable to approve such requests.
Yeah, no, I agree, in fact, and it's events like this that we get that opportunity. And Qatar Central Bank was sat right there. They've gone. We'll speak to them later. We did the same in Saudi Arabia. You know, in Saudi Arabia, we started working with one of the largest banks there, first of all, and then we started working with SAMA. And we went to SAMA and he explained, and we told them the controls and the granularity, and in the fact that they would be more secure rather than less secure. And in fact, they actually purchased the service. Not only did they recommend it to all the banks, they purchased the service. So that they became my second customer in Saudi Arabia some years ago. You know, so yes, and we've done the same in France, UK, the US, etc., etc. To be honest, it's easier in France and Europe and the US. Because they were already attuned to those types of services. And I wouldn't say we're behind, but culturally there's a little bit more restrictions regionally to actually have that trust. And maybe it's because we haven't actually spent the time, we spent more time in the US and Europe doing it, and we haven't spent enough time regionally. But you know, we're doing that now, so thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, and that was really important and interesting discussion. And I think we can open the floor for questions if anyone wants to get more clarification. Start.
Two comments, not specific questions, but maybe two comments. I need your feedback on them. Okay. So on big data. People, when start gathering data, just because they can, because the cost of storage is becoming very cheap. And sometimes you choose to retain data, although you don't have any benefit from it now, okay, but you might have use for it in the future. But the retention of such huge amounts of data does introduce a responsibility upon you. So, should we, because now we know the scale of breaches is becoming now in millions and tens of millions of records, Target, etc., okay? So now, because breaches are becoming more costly, so the responsibility with retaining such amounts of data is bigger. So are we rising up to this responsibility? This is a big question. Another question. I just want to say the other comment is about cloud. I am really, I'm surprised how many decision makers are falling to the psychological weakness of humans, which is a basic psychological weakness, is that we tend to over-exaggerate risks when when things are outside of our control. The classic example is we exaggerate risk of flying versus driving, while we are maybe hundreds of thousands more likely to die in a car accident than in a plane. But we dread flying. Why? Because we have no control. But actually, the risk from flying is hundreds, maybe millions of times less than driving a car. I'm telling you, you are more likely to die in a car accident than in flying, but you are more comfortable driving. So the same thing is with cloud. actually having control might be more risky for you. So I really implore decision makers to consider cloud services and manage their contracts with their cloud providers and make sure that those cloud providers are contractually obliged to deliver your requirements, your security requirements, and your privacy requirements, and your legal requirements. So there are guides. ICT Qatar, they have a cloud security guideline you can use. Cloud Security Alliance, they have CSA. They have a very big, long questionnaire. And from our side as a company, we actually did use those questionnaires to talk to some of the cloud providers we were considering at some point. So these are my comments.
Thank you.
Okay.
So,
I will. Thank you, Yasser. I mean, those are actually good questions. I will start with the first question. Now, as an information security professional, one of your obligations and your liabilities as an effective information security is actually to destroy data that you don't need. Data destruction is part of your responsibilities. I remember, so yes, making data available, archiving it, having it when it's needed, that's one of your responsibilities. But when it's not needed, you have to destruct it in a very insecure way. That's one of your responsibilities. To your point, I remember in the U.S., one of the clients, one of the Fortune 100 companies, one of the CIOs was saying, I have a big storage, I will archive everything and I will save everything backup. And one of the comments that was made at that time is, listen, first of all, it's costly, you don't need it. From a security perspective, you need to spend money to secure it. So if regulators and if the company no longer requires this information, you have to destruct and destroy this information. Sorry.
There is no incentive for you to secure.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So being I'm talking from an information security perspective here. Destroy it. Destruct the data if no longer required. And again, if no longer regulators mandate this information and data to be available in a secure way, you have to destroy it. That's my perspective. Now, to answer your question very quickly, if I may allow to. The other question was about, so if you don't mind reminding me.
the cloud and regulations.
Cloud.
The cloud and
Perceived
the
risk.
risk that's
Perceived risk around.
Oh, okay.
Big data.
I always tell my colleagues, I'm part of risk management. To me, information security is a risk function. And I always say, we don't live in a very risky environment. To me, what is the risk of driving your car to work? Is actually not the flat tire or the engine failure or the battery dies. It's actually not to be at work. That's it. So the risk is not to be at work. I mean, for me, that's the risk of driving your car to work. Now, what are the threats? Flat tire, battery dies, etc., etc. So really the controls that you need to do is to predict what could go wrong from a threat perspective, not from a risk. We do accept risks to some extent. So to your situation, Yasser, absolutely, we have to take some risks, otherwise we can't do business. This is from my point of view.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, thank you. So I'm Marc Dacier, I work for QCRI doing research in security. So yesterday there was this thought that security should really be a discussion taking place at the level of the board. And I think today's panel are good examples where sometimes it's not yet taking place. For instance, BYOD, people refer to bring your own device, but my feeling is that sometimes employees see that more as buy your own device. It's a way to actually cut costs.
Doesn't matter.
And you have all said it's a nightmare from a security point of view. So clearly this is not a decision which has been made with security in mind. And regarding the cloud, so lots has been said already. People say, yeah, if you move to the cloud, then control, blah, blah, blah. On the other hand, this is a perfect place to see tons of things and to do a better job from a security point of view. And most companies do a good job. But when you look at the sales pitch, when people actually have to choose, and I put aside the critical things like banks and so on, but when people look at, okay, which cloud provider am I going to choose, security is really an element which is set forward by the vendors. They say, you know, bandwidth, quality of service, reliability, availability. Security, it's more like a, yeah, they have security, tick in the box. And you rarely communicate about all the things you do. So again, it seems to me that we are just leaving security to the security department or the subgroup somewhere there. Any comment on those things?
I kind of agree with you. It is, there are still these divisions between security and the rest of the business. But it does depend. I mean, that is organization to organization. You know, some of the panelists I've seen up here in the last 2 days, you can see they're really influencing and they're looking at the business drivers in there. Akamai as a cloud company, we have a dedicated security division, but typically we end up talking to the CISOs, and Akamai's delivery business, we end up talking to the application owners. So we have two different stories going on from two different departments, and we have our own internal silos. That company has its silos, and then guess what? We go out and work with Aradu and IBMs, and they have their silos. So we're all speaking at different elements, and we have these multi-matrix organizations that we're trying to actually get through. The thing is, we are aware of this, and it is getting better, and we're trying to close that gap. But I said it's organizational to organization, and it's something we all need to be reticent of. But it's a very good question and comment.
Okay, I think we are at the end of the session. Thank you very much for you all, Mohammed, Aftab, and Satya, for your sharing your expertise with us, and with this really debatable subject that has different views and different interests for organizations and normal users as well. And thank you for all for attending and listening for this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sami, Satya, Aftab, and Mohammed for sharing your insights on the implications of security on disruptive technologies such as cloud, mobile, big data, and of course social media as well. We will break now for 60 minutes for meetings and networking with the solution providers as well as your peers here in this room. We gather back at 12 p.m. for another exciting panel discussion, which would actually serve as a very good conclusion to all the topics we've witnessed since yesterday as well as this morning. The discussion would be about capacity building and collaboration. How can the government, the academia, the research segment, as well as the private sector come together to collectively and proactively provide cybersecurity to Qatar. So we meet back at 12 p.m. Post this panel discussion, there is an exciting networking activity called as the NASEBA Networking Hub. So we look forward to meeting you all at 12 p.m. Thank you.